And God said to Adam, "Because you listened to your wife's voice and ate from the tree I told you not to eat from." Listen to that again. God didn't say Adam was tricked. He said Adam listened. Here's the truth most men have never heard. Adam wasn't deceived by the devil. Eve was deceived. The Bible says that straight in 1 Timothy 2:14. Adam's sin was different, and it was worse. Why worse? Because Adam saw everything clearly. He wasn't fooled. He chose to walk away from his identity in God to please his wife instead. That's not a bedtime story. That's the oldest pattern in the world, and it's still happening right now in your house. Why does this still matter today? Because the same pattern that broke Adam is breaking men right now in your generation. Weak men blame the woman. Strong men own the choice. You're about to understand something most men never figure out. Why so many strong men still feel empty inside. Why some men provide, work hard, show up every single day, and still feel like they don't know who they are. That's not confusion, that's a symptom. This isn't about willpower, it's about where your identity actually comes from. Society told you that listening to your woman, always agreeing, always adjusting, always chasing her approval, makes you a good man, a mature man, a safe man. It doesn't. It makes you Adam in the garden. In this video, we're going to cover 4 truths most men will never hear in church, in therapy, or from their own father. 4 truths that show you exactly how a man loses his identity and exactly how he gets it back. Some of you have already paid for ignoring this. In your marriage, in how your kids see you, in how you see yourself in the mirror at 2 a.m. And the last one, the one about the voice you actually answer to, that's the one that hits hardest. Now, before we go further, a word to the women watching this. Stay with me. This isn't an attack on you. Eve was deceived. She was a victim of the serpent, not the villain of this story. What we're exposing here is where a man plants his identity, not whether he should ever listen to a woman. Power under control, not silence, not disrespect. Just a man who knows the difference between listening and losing himself. Most men will never admit any of this out loud. But if you're still watching, you already know it's true. This isn't about being harsh. It's not about being cold to your wife, your girlfriend, or your mother. It's about something deeper. Something most men lost a long time ago and never even noticed was gone. You're here because some part of you knows you were built for more than this. A man of real purpose. A man of real strength. A man who answers to God first, not to fear, not to approval, not to whoever's voice is loudest in the room. Boy asks who he's allowed to be. Man already knows. This won't be comfortable to hear. Good. Comfortable never built a real man. Let's get started. Number 1. The man who wouldn't bend. Some of you already think this video is about disrespecting women. It's not. Watch what Jesus did, and you'll see exactly what this is really about. There's a wedding in Cana. The wine runs out. Mary, his own mother, comes to him and says, "They have no wine." Jesus answers her, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Read that again. Jesus said no to his mother, not out of coldness, not out of disrespect. He said no because he knew his time, he knew his mission, and he wasn't going to let anyone move him off it. Not even the woman who raised him. It happens again later. His own brothers push him to go up to the Feast of Tabernacles to show himself off in public. Jesus tells them plainly, "My time has not yet come." He waits. He goes later, on his own terms, in his own timing, answering to his Father, not to his family's pressure. Why does this matter? Because Jesus, as a man, had perfect clarity about his calling. Nobody could talk him out of it. Not his brothers, not his disciples, not even his own mother. The same applies to you. If God has spoken to you about who you are and what you're built to do, you don't hand that decision over to whoever's opinion is loudest in the room that day. Not your girlfriend's opinion, not your wife's mood, not your mother's expectations. Reactive men fold under a look, a sigh, a cold shoulder. Intentional men hold the line and let the storm pass. Picture a man who feels God pulling him towards something hard. Starting a business, leaving a dead-end job, finally having the conversation he's avoided for years. His wife doesn't understand it yet. She's scared, and scared people push back. A reactive man reads her fear as a verdict and quits on the spot. An intentional man stays calm, stays kind, and stays exactly on course because his conviction didn't come from her in the first place. This isn't about being stubborn or shutting people out. A man can still listen. A man can still love his wife well and honor his mother and take advice seriously. But listening with humility is one thing. Trading your identity to keep the peace is something else entirely. Here's how you use this today. Before you let a woman's reaction decide your next move, stop and ask one question. Did God already tell me who I am here? If he did, that answer doesn't expire because someone's upset about it. Think about the man who has a real calling on his business, his ministry, his family's future, and quietly drops it the first time his wife rolls her eyes at the risk. That's not humility. That's a man who never really believed God spoke to him in the first place. Comfort will always ask you to fold. Legacy will always ask you to hold. You can't build one while chasing the other. A man of purpose knows his hour. A boy waits for someone else's permission. That's the whole game. Number 2, the back door. Look at the garden closely, and something jumps out at you. The serpent didn't go after Adam first. He went after Eve. Why? Because Adam had a real identity in God. He walked with God face to face every single day. The serpent had no clean shot at a man like that. So he went around the back. He deceived the woman first, so the woman would then hand the temptation straight to Adam. Adam ate from her hand, not from the serpent's mouth. That's the back door, and it still works the exact same way today. A man locked into his identity in God is hard to move. Try to sell him fear, flattery, or a shortcut, and he sees right through it. But that same man will hand over his convictions in a heartbeat the moment the pressure comes wrapped in a woman's disappointment, her tears, or her silence. Here's the proof God himself gives us. After Adam eats the fruit, who does God call out to first? Not Eve. Adam, 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 where are you? God holds the man responsible as the head of that household, even though Eve ate first. That's not an accident. That's the whole point of the story. The same applies to you, right now, in your own house. You can be disciplined at the gym, sharp at work, locked in on your finances and your self-discipline every single day, and still get taken out completely the moment your wife's approval or your girlfriend's mood or your mother's opinion starts running your decisions instead of God's word. High-value man versus fake alpha. The fake alpha is loud everywhere except at home, where the real pressure actually lives. Picture the man who preaches self-discipline online, who's disciplined in the gym, disciplined with money, disciplined with his time. Then his wife goes quiet for 2 days over a decision he made, and by day 3 he's already reversing course, apologizing for something he was never wrong about. That's not leadership. End quote. That's a man managing a mood instead of standing on a conviction. Here's how you close that door for good. Get honest about where the pressure actually comes from when you cave on something you know is right. 9 times out of 10, it's not another man threatening you. It's a woman's reaction you're afraid of And you've never said that part out loud, not even to yourself. Self-mastery isn't just about your habits. It's about knowing which voice gets the final word when your habits and her opinion collide. Real leadership starts in that exact moment, not on a stage, not in a boardroom, but in your own kitchen at 11 at night. Guard the front door all you want, with all your discipline and all your strength. If the back door is wide open, none of it matters. That's item 2. Number 3, you weren't deceived. You chose. This is the one most men won't want to hear. Real talk, sit with it anyway. Go back to the garden one more time. Adam and Eve have already eaten. They're hiding in the bushes, ashamed and listening for footsteps. And God walks through the garden and asks a question he already knows the answer to. Where are you? Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from? Stop, right there. God doesn't ask, were you tricked? He doesn't ask, did she force you? He asks a direct question about a direct choice. Because that's exactly what it was. Here's the part most churches skip and most men have never actually heard. Adam wasn't deceived. Paul says it plainly in 1 Timothy 2:14. It was the woman who was deceived, not Adam. Adam knew exactly what he was doing the whole time. Why does that matter so much? Because deception is a defense. Choice is not. Picture a courtroom for a second. A man who was genuinely tricked, genuinely lied to, has a case. A judge can show him some mercy, but a man who saw the truth clearly and did the wrong thing anyway, on purpose, with his eyes wide open, there's no defense for that. None. That's not an accident. That's premeditation. Now apply the law of that courtroom to the garden. God had given the command directly to Adam before Eve even existed. Adam heard it firsthand, from God's own mouth, not secondhand from anyone else. So, when the fruit gets handed to him, there's no confusion to plead. He's not a man caught off guard. He's a man weighing two things in his hands. At the exact same moment, the clear command of God and the approval of his wife. And he chose her approval. In any real courtroom, that's called an aggravating factor, not a defense. A crime committed by accident gets treated one way. A crime committed knowingly, deliberately, with full understanding of the consequences, gets treated as far more serious. That's exactly the distinction Scripture draws between Eve and Adam. Eve gets deceived. That's her failure. And it's real, but it's a different category of failure. Adam gets nothing. No trick, no lie. Just a straight, conscious trade of God's word for his wife's approval. That's Adam. That's not weakness in the way we usually think about weakness. That's a decision. And here's where this gets uncomfortable for you. Specifically, watching this right now. I've watched this exact pattern wreck good men, men who love God, men who know their Bible better than most pastors ever will. And I'll say it straight, because this channel doesn't do fake distance from the message. I've lived a version of this myself. There was a season where I knew exactly what God was calling me to do, and I sat on it for months, more afraid of upsetting the people at home than of disobeying him. I chose comfort over conviction every single day, until it cost me something I couldn't get back. If that's ever been you too, if you've known exactly what was right and chosen comfort instead, you're not the only man carrying that. Put it in the comments below, if you're willing, not for attention. So the next man who reads it knows he's not alone in this. And so we can actually learn from each other's battles instead of carrying them alone and in silence. That's the pattern, right there. And it's older than you think. It's Eden, running on a loop. Most men today aren't wandering around confused about what God wants from them. Deep down, a lot of you already know exactly what needs to change. You know the business you should have started 2 years ago. You know the conversation you've been avoiding with your wife. You know the habit that's been quietly ruling your house while you pretend it isn't. You know the calling on your life, that you buried the day it got inconvenient. You weren't deceived. You knew, and you chose the easier path anyway. Why? Because choosing the hard, right thing might mean tension at home. It might mean an argument tonight instead of a quiet dinner. It might mean disappointing someone whose opinion you've quietly let matter more than God's. Fear the wrong person's disapproval, and it will run your entire life without you ever noticing it happened. And it doesn't stop with you. A man who keeps folding, generation after generation, raises sons who watch every single surrender, even the quiet ones. They learn what a man is supposed to do under pressure by watching what you actually do, not by what you tell them at church on Sunday. A daughter watches too, and quietly decides what kind of man she'll accept someday, based entirely on what she saw you accept from yourself. This isn't just about your Tuesday night. It's about the next 50 years of your family's story. If you're single, don't check out of this part. The exact same trap works through your mother instead of a wife. A grown man still shaping his career, his faith, his whole direction in life around whether his mother approves, is running the same script Adam ran, just with a different woman standing in the room. The command hasn't changed. Fear God, not whoever raised you. There's an old warning that fits perfectly here. Fear God, not men. Proverbs puts it this way: the fear of man is a trap, but the man who trusts in the Lord is kept safe, not her disapproval, not her silence, not her tears. Fear God, because a man who genuinely fears God cannot be controlled by anyone else. That's not a slogan, that's a law that's been true since the garden. Think about what that actually buys you. A man who fears God first can absorb a wife's disappointment without collapsing, because his identity was never resting on her approval to begin with. A man who fears people first will spend his entire life managing everyone's mood around him and call it peace, when really it's just quiet, constant surrender. Let's name the pattern plainly, because it's everywhere once you see it. The domesticated man doesn't disappear all at once. He fades, one small surrender at a time. He waters down his convictions to keep dinner peaceful. He quietly lets his wife's fear become his own final answer on every decision. He tells himself he's being a nice guy, being easygoing, being a team player, and calls it love, when really it's just fear wearing a nicer name. And picture it played out. Because you've probably lived some version of this yourself. A man sits down at the table, ready to tell his wife he's finally doing the thing God's been putting on his heart for 2 years. Maybe it's starting the business. Maybe it's leaving the job that's been draining the life out of him. Maybe it's finally setting a boundary with her mother or his own. He opens his mouth to say it. And before the first sentence is even finished, her face changes. Worry, maybe fear, maybe just disappointment that the comfortable version of their life might shift. And right there, in that exact second, he has two roads. Road one, he stays anchored, stays kind, keeps talking her through it with patience to be. Because his calling didn't come from her opinion in the first place. Road two, he watches her face, reads the room, Makkah, and quietly walks it back. You know what? Forget it. It's not that important. That second man tells himself he just kept the peace. What he actually did was hand his identity to whoever made the loudest facial expression in the room. A dangerous man, in the good sense of that word, is different. Not loud, not cruel, just anchored. He can be told no, disagreed with, even genuinely wrong sometimes, and he still knows exactly who he is when the conversation ends. Let's be clear about something, because this line gets twisted constantly. This isn't permission to be stubborn, cold, or impossible to talk to. A man can be wrong. A man should listen. A man should take real correction seriously, especially from a wife who knows him better than almost anyone alive on earth. That's wisdom, not weakness. But there's a hard line between listening with humility and trading your identity to keep the peace. Listening with humility sounds like, "Help me think this through. Tell me what you're seeing that I might be missing." Trading your identity sounds like, "I'll just drop it, so we stop fighting about it." One makes you sharper. The other makes you a stranger to your own calling. One small surrender at a time. There's an old idea outside the Bible that actually lines up with this pretty closely. Some men fall for a woman from across the room and think the answer is chasing her immediately, right then, no matter the cost. Sometimes, what a man actually needs first is solitude, real time alone with God, sorting out exactly who he is before he ever chases anyone or anything. Get that order backwards, and you'll spend your whole life outsourcing your identity to whoever happens to be standing closest to you. Here's how you apply all of this, starting today, not next week. First, stop calling it confusion when it's actually avoidance. Confusion says, "I don't know what to do." Avoidance says, "I know exactly what to do, and I'm scared of what happens when I do it." Those are two completely different problems. And you cannot fix the second one by pretending it's the first. If you already know what God told you to do, admit that out loud, even if it's just to yourself in the mirror. Second, ask the real question. Not, "What will she think?" but am I choosing peace at home over obedience to God, and quietly calling that peace wisdom? Write it down if you have to. Most men have never once put that sentence into words, and that's exactly why the pattern keeps repeating without them noticing. Third, when you feel that familiar pull to fold, name it out loud in the moment, even silently in your own head. "I know what's right here, and I'm about to trade it for comfort." Saying it kills half its power immediately. A choice you name is a choice you can still turn down. A choice you never name just happens to you over and over for years. That question alone, asked honestly, will expose more in 5 minutes than a year of soul-searching ever will. There's a deeper conversation about how a man leads the emotional temperature of his marriage without becoming hard, distant, or impossible to reach. That's a conversation for another video. Hold on to that thought for now, because it matters, and we're not skipping it forever. Here's the line you need to walk out of this video with. Adam didn't fall because he was weak-minded or slow to understand. Adam fell because he was clear-eyed and chose comfort anyway. Every single time you do the same thing, you're not being deceived either. You're choosing. Full stop. Real masculinity isn't handed to you at birth, and it isn't handed to you by a woman's approval either. It's built, one honest choice at a time, the same way discipline is built, the same way self-mastery is built. Every time you choose obedience over comfort, you're not just avoiding a mistake, you're actually becoming the man you're meant to be, brick by brick, whether anyone around you notices or not. Own that. Stop hiding behind confusion that was never actually there in the first place. A deceived man deserves pity. A man who chose and knows it only has one honest move left on the table. Turn around right now and choose differently. And the last one, the one most men completely miss. Number 4, the voice you answer to. End quote. Skip ahead a few thousand years from the garden, and the same exact trap shows up wearing a crown. God gives King Saul a direct order through the prophet Samuel: wipe out the Amalekites completely and everything with them. No exceptions, no negotiation, no fine print. Saul goes to war, wins, and then does something else entirely. Not obedience. A compromise. He spares the enemy king, Agag, alive. He keeps the best of the sheep and cattle for himself and his men, and only destroys what's worthless. Samuel shows up and asks him straight, "Why do I hear sheep bleating and cattle lowing? If you did exactly what God told you to do?" Saul's first move is to lie and say he obeyed completely. Samuel doesn't buy it for a second. And then listen closely to Saul's real excuse, once he's cornered. Because it's the exact same excuse Adam never even bothered to make. I was afraid of the people, and I obeyed their voice. There it is again. Not I was deceived. Not I didn't understand the order. A grown man, a king with real power and an army in his hand, admits flat out that he traded God's clear command for the approval of the crowd standing around him. Why does a king's failure from thousands of years ago matter to you watching this on your phone or your TV tonight? Because the pattern never changes size. It doesn't matter if the voice belongs to an army, a boardroom, or one woman across the dinner table. The mechanism is identical every single time. You already know God's command, and you obey whichever voice you're actually afraid of losing. That's the whole video, right there, in one sentence. You become whichever voice you're most afraid to disappoint. A boy needs the room's approval to feel like something. A man already knows. This is manhood, stripped all the way down to the one decision that actually counts. Whose voice wins when it costs you something? So ask yourself, honestly, right now, not later tonight, whose voice runs your decisions? Whose disapproval actually changes your behavior in real time? Whose silence makes you quietly rewrite your own convictions on the spot without even noticing you did it? For most men, if they're honest, the answer isn't God, it's her. Picture the version of you that answers to the right voice. He's the same man from the wedding at Cana who knows his hour and won't let anyone move it. He's the same man who finally shuts the back door the enemy's been using for years, instead of just guarding the front one. He's the man from a few minutes ago in this video, the one who finally stopped calling it confusion and started calling it what it actually was. All four of these men are the same man. He just finally figured out whose voice gets the final word. Here's where we bring this all the way home. You are not what your mother says you are. You are not what your girlfriend says you are. You are not what your wife says you are. You are what God once said you are. That's not a slogan for a poster. That's the entire fight of your life, laid out in one line. Adam lost that fight in a garden with his eyes wide open. Saul lost it on a battlefield with a crown on his head. And most men lose it quietly, in their own kitchen, 100 small times a year, never once calling it what it actually is. Here's how you actually live this out, starting this week, not someday. Go back to whatever God has already told you about who you are and what you're supposed to build, lead, or protect. If you've never written it down, write it down now. One sentence is enough. Then measure every pushback you get against that one sentence, every disappointed look, every cold shoulder, every "are you sure about this?" Not against her mood in the moment, against his word, settled long before her mood ever showed up. Second, stop confusing softness toward people with surrender of conviction. You can lower your voice and still hold your ground. You can hug your wife and still not change your answer. Tenderness and backbone were never opposites. Only weak men think they are. Third, expect the pressure to come back. It came back for Saul more than once. It'll come back for you this week, maybe tonight, in some small decision that feels bigger than it actually is. The test isn't whether the pressure shows up. The test is which voice wins when it does. This is not about being harsh with the people you love. A man of God can still be tender, still be patient, still be the man his family actually needs, showing up every single day, whether it's convenient or not. Power under control looks exactly like that. Strength that doesn't have to prove itself by being loud, because it already knows exactly who it answers to. The men who build something that actually lasts, the men whose families still respect them 20 years from now, all have one thing in common, without exception. They settled this question early. They stopped negotiating their identity with whoever was standing closest to them, and they started answering to God first, every single time, no matter what it cost them in the moment. That's the whole game. Fear God, not men. Answer to Him first, and everything else in your life, your marriage, your family, your calling, finally has a foundation strong enough to actually carry the weight. You don't need a crowd's approval to be a man of God. You don't need a wife's constant agreement, a girlfriend's admiration, or a mother's pride to know who you are. You already have the only verdict that ever actually mattered, spoken long before any of them met you. Everything from here is just a matter of whether you'll finally believe it. Here's where this leaves you. A man who knows his hour the way Christ did. A man who finally guards the back door, not just the front one. A man who stops hiding behind confusion he never actually had and calls it what it is. A man who finally answers to the right voice in his marriage, in his home, in his own head at midnight when nobody else is watching. That man isn't a theory. He isn't some distant ideal you'll get to someday. Once things settle down, once the timing feels right, he's available to you, starting tonight. The moment you stop trading your identity for someone else's approval, one honest decision at a time, he looks ordinary from the outside. He still goes to work, still shows up to dinner, still sits through the same conversations everyone else does. The difference is invisible until it isn't, until the moment his conviction gets tested and he doesn't fold. That's the only test that has ever actually mattered for Adam, for Saul, and for you. This won't happen all at once. It rarely does. It happens the next time someone's face changes when you say something true and you don't take it back. It happens the next time silence feels heavier than obedience and you choose obedience anyway. Small moments, mostly invisible to everyone else, decide the whole thing. Nobody's going to clap for this. Your wife might not even notice, not at first. Your kids definitely won't say it out loud. But something in your own house will shift quietly the day you stop needing anyone's permission to be who God already said you are. That shift is worth more than any applause you were ever chasing anyway. There's no finish line here, and no trophy at the end of it. Just 1,000 small moments spread out over the rest of your life where you either answer to the voice that made you or the voice that's simply standing closest. Most men never even realize they're being asked to choose. Now you do. You are not what your mother says you are. You are not what your girlfriend says you are. You are not what your wife says you are. You are what God once said you are. Carry that sentence with you longer than you carry this video. Say it to yourself the next time you feel that old pull to fold. Iron sharpens iron. One man who gets this right, quietly, without announcing it to anyone, starts sharpening every other man around him, whether he means to or not. His sons, his brothers, the men who watch how he carries himself under pressure. That's how this actually spreads. Not through noise, through one settled man at a time. By the way, if any of this hits something in you tonight, hit like and subscribe for more of this every couple of days. Until next time.